And I'm going to just go through some different techniques that would work within a waterfall format, but still remaining agile. So as an agency leader or as an agency head, I would like to kind of come up with 3 terms we like to talk about for the success of a project. As an agile leader, that project is always going forward and we're testing and deploying and trying. But as a waterfall, we want to get everything done up front. So the 3 things that I'm listed here, educate, communicate, and demonstrate, all fall in both of those patterns. So we can educate you about how waterfall works, we can communicate what's happening, and we can demonstrate things that are being done within the project. So the tricky part then comes, how do we change things around if there's more items offered within that scope of work we're trying to do? So let's look at that first one, educate. So the most important part of this is the planning of this project. So you as a merchant or you as a developer, you want to spend as much time as you can planning your project to make sure that the project is going to be completed on time, that you have everything you need to complete the project. In this case, we want to make sure we have goals that we're going to go towards, and what we would like to do is have goals that are set to milestones, and each of those milestones are in, say, a 2-week piece. Defining success with the developer and the client is the most important part of this. So as I'm going to demonstrate later on, we want to make sure that whatever the merchant is, or the person, the client is saying, I would like this to be this is what I feel is success of this project. And I agree as an agency that the success of this project is to do X. So we're going to get a website together. It's going to have this really cool logo. It's going to have a shopping cart. We're going to be able to add products, and we're going to be able to check out. We feel that's success. So we all agree on that up front. We want to encourage everybody in the project to spend as much time as we can first before we start working. And that will give us everything we'd like to know about that project, and to be able to deliver that project, and especially to be able to deliver it on time. There's been many occasions that we've had projects that the client would like to have that project started right away. They would like to start development the day they sign the contract. The reality is that everybody needs to get to know that project, and they have to understand what that project means, what's part of it, and how we're going to deliver it. So in that case, we're going to set expectations. Then the final thing is that we want to do this principle called Moscow. Must have, should have, could have, won't have. Here in this, we're going to go through all the things that you'd like to do. And let's say our timeline is 12 weeks or 16 weeks. We have a lot of things that we have to get done in that time. There's some things that if we have time, we can do. And there's just some things that aren't going to work. So we prioritize using the Moscow method that gives us a way of delivering your project in the time that you would like to deliver it. All right, so in that education phase, or let's call it the requirement gathering, we call it a sprint 0. We would like to do some on-site workshops. This is where we're going to either do it virtually, or better yet, we would come on site with a team. We would do everything we need to do to learn about it. We would get all the questions answered. If there's anything that seems unreasonable, it's up to the project manager to give some pushback, but that's not to say that it's also on the client to push back on, hey, this is a must-have. We have to get this done. Let's figure out how we can do it. We use a technique called whiteboarding. So in this discovery meeting, the client and the project management team, the client team, would come up with every single idea they would like for their new project. We're going to collect all that, put it back into our priority model to make sure that we know we can launch it. Then we're going to get stakeholder commitments, and this is very important on the client side to make sure that all the people involved in the project are able to commit to what they need to do for that project. There are a lot of items within a project that involve delivery items from the client, and we need commitment for all those different pieces to make sure they happen. Then finally, after we've done all that, we can start work. So it does seem simple, of course, but there's a lot of work to get to that point. And we would like to stress that to get to that point, we need to take a lot of extra time to get there. So if we were to look and see what that looks like, this is going to be the same in Agile or in Waterfall. We're going to take all those features that you would like to do. So let's just say redesigning your homepage or adding a product page or anything like that. We'll call that a story. And then each of those pages are going to get, each of those items or stories are going to get broken down into tasks. Now, as long as we have all those stories together, we have a really good picture of how your project's going to go. In a typical Agile format, those tasks are going to be put into a backlog, and we're going to work on those as we go. And you as the client have the ability to change anything you want at any time. In Waterfall, what we would do is all those items would get planned and they would get mapped out, say in a Gantt chart or something, and they would get done one after the other to make sure that we're on time or we're doing it. So if we're going to offer changes, if we're going to do it in a waterfall way, like a fixed budget, we need to make sure that we're ready for changes and that we're taking our changes and we're discussing those changes as soon as they happen. So if let's just say we're 6 weeks into a project and suddenly somebody brings something to the table that says, hey, I need this. A lot of times that can go into story 1, 2, or 3. Maybe it's something that wasn't brought out for the product page, and it would be just a task on number 3 or number 2, or it's an additional task that wouldn't take more time, or maybe the requirements team overlooked it and the project team is going to do that. But more than likely, it's something new that somebody on the client team would like, and that new thing is going to have to go into a new story. So now we've identified a change, and that change is going to have to get put in somehow. So in that, we have to make sure that we have a way of either taking something out or putting something in. So in that, we have a change of either budget, time, or scope. And for doing that, we have to communicate those changes. So as we move through this process, the communication part is the most important part of this. So everything that we've spoken about, or everything we've decided, everything that we've planned, and all the time that goes by, we need to be reporting often. And on critical projects, or maybe when the project is starting, we would report that every day. We'd have a status report that would go out. More than likely, we're going to report this every week or every other week. That gives an idea of where we're at. We'd want to summarize for maybe leadership positions, CEO, just to make sure we're on track. And of course, there's going to be a billing. If it's a fixed bid, more than likely there'd be a fixed way of billing, but sometimes you'd just be paying by the month. And then of course, the most important part is that change report that we spoke about, that would tell us what are the things that we can add, what are the things that we can take out. These are really the negotiation points that we can do as the project management team interacts with the client. Those different changes are the things that we really need to key in on, especially in a fixed bid situation. Then finally, just deploying, how we're deploying the project. In this case, we would like to demonstrate what we're doing every couple of weeks. So we're seeing how that deployment happens. And this is the time in that deployment that we recheck how successful we're being. So just like we've planned our whole project up front, in these milestone increments, we're also deciding what is success in this milestone increment. And that deployment tells us, are we successful or not? So maybe in this 2-week time frame that we're doing, we're going to deploy it. The deployment should include the completed header, footer, homepage. Are we success? Yes, great. We're keeping moving. To help us in that reporting and help that communication, we have a project trajectory. And again, we're leaning a little bit on Agile here. This would be an example of a burn down chart, but it does give us an indication of how many hours there are to work over a time to work those hours. So in this case, we've just picked an arbitrary number of 400, and then we have a timeline of say 12 weeks. And that time, as we work through those requirements and features are going to go down, and the goal would be at the bottom. We'd be at 0 and we've launched the website. Of course, as we move along, there could be things that the client would like to add. So in this case, the yellow line are items added to a project. And this is a visual representation that the client can see that because they're adding something, it's adding time to the project, and we're going to have to do something to fix that discrepancy in time. So in this case, if we continue, we can see that the client is continuing to add things. The project management team is not taking things away. If we don't do something, the project's not going to finish in the time that we would like. So in this case, we don't want to extend the amount of time. We can only change the scope. Budget is going to stay the same, but we still want to make sure that the project is going to launch in the time that we have. So if we go back and think about those 3 different boxes we have, we are going to be able to adjust the scope, and we can see now, because we've adjusted the scope, the project will finish in the time we'd like it to finish. So any of the 3 items that we have can change. They can't change disproportionately, or the middle piece that we have there, quality, is going to suffer. So just kind of recapping some of these communication items that we have. We want to have a clearly defined launch plan that would encompass all those items that we've planned on in the beginning in that sprint 0 that I demonstrated. We want to make sure we have smoke tests done. And a smoke test is simply a way of continuously testing the site as we're launching, as we're deploying, to make sure that it's what you as a client would like and what you feel is success as a client. Of course, having the client involved is going to be helpful to the whole team. The more client involvement, the better the project is going to come out, and the more understanding there's going to be across the whole team. Finally, compiling all those reports that I demonstrated early. All those reports can come up with a clear picture of how this entire project went. We have daily, weekly, monthly reports. All those reports contain very objective things that will allow us to be successful in the project, but better, it will allow everybody to see where things could have gone better, where things didn't go well, and most importantly, what did we do really well that made the project a success. And it gives us a complete visual plus an objective, meaning there's a lot of facts there that show that yes, we did this project did turn out really well, and it turned out well on time. And then the way we did that is we were able to do some of these things where we could take some things out, put some things back, have a successful launch of the project. So the final piece that I had said was just demonstrating how we're doing this. And I've hinted in some of the previous slides, we want to show our progress. We want to have bi-weekly product demonstrations. That would be the deployment part of it. We want to have in-person meetings to make sure that everybody understands where we are at time. Those can be real meetings or virtual meetings. Then the most important part is we want to tie that stated success to the actual success. I can't stress how important that last piece is, that we all agree that the product page is going to look like this, that it's going to have this feature on it, and at the end, this is what the product page has, and here's the features on it. I think a lot of times what can happen is that as we grow through a project, especially in Agile, those features may change. There's scope that gets larger, and those pieces sometimes blur what is success in a project. There could be something externally that comes into it that doesn't allow the project to be successful. There's many different types of things that would, that if we haven't discussed what success is, there's many things that come up that blur what the real success is at the end of the project. So as I showed earlier, there's some of these visuals that we use will show the progress of our project. So this is the communication part. This is the demonstrating part of how we're doing. Agreeing on what's success, and it's really important that we agree let's just say we're deploying or testing every 2 weeks. The more we can agree on these incremental pieces of a success, the more successful we are going to be. And let's face it, we all want to be happy. We want the client to be happy. We'd like the project team to be happy. Those small wins make a bigger win when everything is put together at the end. And then, of course, we want to meet often. We want to meet a lot. And then tying it all together, we want to plan, we want to demonstrate, and then we want to be successful in that plan. So I am done, and I'm not 100% sure how we're going to ask and answer questions.
Yeah, actually, I'm checking. I'm waiting for people to submitting the question and answer right now. So it's open to audience. If you have any questions, we'll give you a couple minutes here just to submit that. I'm going to take a look, and I'll forward it to you, Brent, when I see one.
Great. Yeah, so this is the part where everybody's clapping in the audience, and
I need that sound effect, like boom, 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 boom.
I'm turning around and taking a selfie with everybody.
Yeah. Don't you miss that?
Yep.
Okay, let's just give it a couple, one more minute if any questions coming in. So far, you're good. No questions so far.
Right. So what is the audience so far?
We have total live 256. I can't really see how much attendee in this session, but yeah, from the total live that I see now, we have 256 people connecting to the platform. So
great.
It's a good number.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I guess there's no more question, Brent. I guess, yeah, I don't think you're gonna stay around too long. It's very late, but welcome, stick around for as long as you can, Brent. And anybody on the audience, if you want to connect to Brent, you can send him a message. And the platform is actually, we're gonna stay on for the next, at least a week. So you can revisit and check anything happening. All right.
Great.
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.